Cory, thanks again for joining me for our Thought Leader Spotlight series. I'm your host, Matt Camp, the head of partnerships for DealMachine. On these, we really like to shine a spotlight on industry experts, these thought leaders that have inspiring stories that can really educate our audience on the lessons that they've learned over the years. Today, we have Cory Boatright, which Cory has completed over 1,000 real estate transactions, owns over 430 apartment units, has sold over $100 million in real estate transactions, including 100 plus unit multifamilies and single families and land, private, angel investments, all types. He's started several multi-million-dollar businesses in real estate investing, all the way to internet marketing to mobile tech. So he's quite an entrepreneur as well. His company and partners have bought and sold over 100 properties a year in the Oklahoma City area. And I know you guys are really looking to nationally expand here soon as well. Yes. And you're also a coach to kind of help high achieving entrepreneurs and teams get phenomenal results in business too. So there's quite a few things that we could cover here today. I'm excited to hear more, Cory. Do you mind just kind of giving a little more context behind that story of how you got to here, to this point today?
Sure. Thanks for having me on here. I appreciate it very much. Yeah. Matt, David, let go with your CEO or founder of that DealMachine. Yeah. He and I met each other in a collective genius mastermind. I believe we connected through Facebook before then. I actually met in person at CG, which was awesome. He showed me the app, and it's just been a really cool tool, a very cool marketing tool. We've sold deals from it. I got started in real estate actually when I was 21 years old. I'm 43 now. I didn't really know what I was doing. Bought my first house with one of my roommates and made every mistake you possibly can make. Learned a lot through that process, but really didn't touch it for another 5-10 years. Got involved with all kinds of different entrepreneurial ventures, started several different companies, actually almost 40 different companies and ventures I was a part of, or I started. Wow. And out of those, 2 succeeded. One of them was a plasma electronics company that I grew up to over $3 million. I sold it from my bedroom. I ran it for about 3.5-4 years. We ended up getting a deal with the government for contracts and ended up selling basically my receivables and part of the company. And then I got involved with real estate afterwards. And the reason I did is because most people that bought these high-end plasma electronics from my other company that I sold, they were affluent people. And I knew that because obviously these screens at the time, now, Matt, these are like they were selling for $20,000 10, 15 years ago. The same one you can go buy for $300 or $500 today. Yeah. Plasma was a very big deal with these big screens. As you've seen these big screens, now it's LCD and more technology gets better and better, 4K, 8K things. Yeah, those things back then it was a big, huge one. And whenever I sold these, I would talk to the purchaser, the buyer, the customer, and ask them how they got successful enough to purchase one of these. Because these are $10, $15, $20,000 TVs, and not everybody can really afford those. Right. And they would share stories, and the kind of thread that was common through all the stories, what do you think it was?
Real estate.
Real estate.
There you go.
So I knew I needed to do something with real estate. I knew I needed to get more involved in it. I kind of messed my way up during my 20s. I didn't really think about making it a business. I just kind of bought one and tried to, resell it, make a little bit of money, but I didn't really know what I was doing. So I really knew I wanted to delve back into it. So I spent a lot of time just self-learning. I got on eBay. I bought courses. I read the course. I'd actually doctor up the course, put notes back into the course, resell it on eBay for more money than I purchased it for, which was funny. I did that many, many, many times. And I joke around and say I got almost a free education because I would read it, put my notes in, and make the product more valuable. But I wish I would have kept a lot of those notes now. Yeah. But I still have a ton of old courses I actually didn't sell. I did keep, but I did that for over a year, and I got enough confidence. I said, okay, I need to go learn real estate from somebody that's actually doing it. So I started out as a bird dog. And a bird dog's just someone that goes and finds deals, distressed houses, boarded up houses. And I found a guy that I knew that was doing big things with real estate. And I just kind of was walking behind him and learning what could I do to help him. And I was a bird dog. So I'd make $500, $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 when I give him basically a house lead that he ended up closing on. Then I realized that from there, he was reselling these properties and he was wholesaling these properties, and he was also doing fix and flips. So I said, wow, you're wholesaling these properties. What does that mean? And so I learned about what wholesaling meant, which was just selling a contract, selling the interest of a property to somebody else. I thought that was really interesting. So I knew I wanted to get into that. So I kind of elevated from being a bird dog to a wholesaler, and started making $5,000, $7,000, $10,000 on deals. Not a whole lot of money at that time, but I mean, more money than the bird dog. Then I saw that he was selling these properties to fix and flippers, and these fix and flippers, and he was a fix and flipper too, but somebody not doing a lot. He would sell them to fix and flippers, and then they would go put money in and sell them and make $30,000, $40,000. So I thought, wow, I need to learn fix and flip. So I got and escalated, moved up the chain again and got a fix and flip business and ran that for maybe 2.5 years or so. Absolutely could not stand it. Was not good at it. Did not care about it enough. Couldn't find a GC that was sober on the weekends. Actually got into arguments over them bringing people over, their contractors, drinking, leaving drugs on the property, and had a gun pulled on me. From a GC, and I literally realized that it wasn't worth it for me at that point to continue doing that. So moved away from that, and was kind of figuring out what I wanted to do. And this is kind of early 2000s at this point, maybe 2006, 2007. I started to figure out what was going on in the niche market, what's going on. Just about this time, Matt, real estate and internet were starting to come together. They were starting to integrate about this time. And there was not really anybody talking about these webinars and all these other stuff that's going on. I was just kind of starting. And I was really intrigued by this idea of, internet and real estate coming together, because one of my mentors and good friends sold his internet company for $7 million. And so it really was like, when you know a friend that actually did that, it becomes more real. It's
for sure.
Like it actually can happen. And so I was always intrigued by the internet stuff too. And I always, I also, built up that company, the Plasma Electronics. I kind of taught myself to code and, front page, and I learned C++, all this other stuff back then. It was bigger back then. Now it's nothing. Now everybody's on Ruby on Rails and Cold Fusion and everything else. But I was doing those things. So I was technologically, I like technology. I was always intrigued by it. And so I love this idea of real estate and technology and internet coming together. So about that time, I was thinking, okay, where are all these niches happening? What's going on? And this lady called me, little old lady. And she called me from a postcard that I sent her. These old, ugly yellow postcards back then, really ugly. And she called me and she said, hey, I'm calling because I got your postcard and I want you to, come take a look at my house and make me an offer on it. I said, okay, well, tell me about the house. And she told me that, it was like worth $150,000, $160,000. I said, okay, well, how much do you owe on it? She's like $150,000, $160,000. I was like, okay, so there's no equity. And I explained to her that I'm an investor and I appreciate you calling me. I can introduce her to an agent, but I need to have equity to make money. That's how I set up my business, and that's how I help people. Is I want them to, I can help them get out of their property, but I need to have equity. She said, no, you don't understand. The bank said, just come out and I just need to get an offer. I said, what do you mean the bank said? Now keep in mind, this is like 2005, 2006, 2007, right in that area. And so I was learning this. I was listening to her say this, and I was like, you said the bank? She said, yeah, the bank said. So I kind of argued with her back and forth. I said, well, there's no equity. She said, just come make an offer. So I went out, looked at this property, cool little property, great area called Edmond, Oklahoma, in Oklahoma, great area. One of the fastest growing actually now. It was great back then too. And so I said, this is a great house. It needs some updating, but I mean, for me to make it work, I'd need probably $85,000, $86,000, and so she understood. I don't think she really cared at the moment what the offer was. She just wanted an offer. So I never thought I'd ever hear from her again, Matt, never. And lo and behold, the next day I get a phone call, and it's the lady again. And she said, "Hey, I'm speak with Cory." And I said, "Yeah, it's Cory." And she said, "Well, I've got the bank on the phone, and they want to ask you about your offer." And I said, "Okay." And the lady said this, and these words still make to this day make my hair stand up on my back of my neck. She said, "Can I speak with Cory in loss mitigation? Can I speak with Cory in loss mitigation?" And I paused for a moment, Matt, because I thought, that's not me. And then I didn't say anything, and I go, "This is Cory in loss mitigation." And the heavens, the clouds freaking opened up, the sun shone down, the little birds floated around, because I realized at that moment that I could have a loss mitigation department. And I didn't really understand exactly what that was, but I was so excited that she called me a Cory in loss mitigation. And we ended up talking. She said, "Well, we can't accept your offer." I was like, "Well, shocker." She said, "But if you added a couple $1,000s, I think we can make it work." Now, back then, what I'm talking about, Matt, are called short sales. Is when someone is willing to, a bank is willing to accept less that's owed on an underlying debt. And it was a very new thing that was just getting started, basically. And about this time, everybody's getting loans and getting houses they couldn't afford. And so we were just getting ready to cusp on that 2007, 2008 recession, right? Where Lehman Brothers went bankrupt, all this stuff, the big recession. And I just got in at the right time when I learned about loss mitigation and short sales. So I ended up buying that property, reselling it, made over $30,000, made more money on a property I had no equity, Matt, than all my other transactions I've done before. And I knew at that moment that I had to learn more about this. So I went in deep, really deep. I started to learn everything I could about short sales. I started a loss mitigation company. I created a information marketing product called Short Sale Fundamentals. We sold those between $1,000 and $1,500. Over 2,500 of those courses, over the a period of 4 or 5 years, basically, when there was kind of a boom between 2008 to 2011 and 2012. And I started a software. We had almost 5,000 users paying us $99 a month. Probably about 3,800 actually paying. We gave away about 1,200 or 1,500, give or take. Still a pretty good sized business with that short sale business. A loss mitigation business, we were doing 30 to 50 short sales a month in the hopper. I had clients and students that were coming to me, work with me to teach them short sales. It was like a big boom about short sales. So I really dug deep in that niche and rode that, I got on that horse and rode it till 2011, early 2012. And what happened was short sales started getting harder and harder to complete. If you remember, the red tape was very hard after 2010 and 11. They were really tightening up on how you took possession of the property. You couldn't list it before you bought it. There's a lot of red tape, and if they found out you're doing certain things, that you're going to get popped. You're going to get in trouble. And so, you're learning as you kind of go. And I was going through some pretty personal challenges. I was also going through some big business challenges. And if you've ever, went through something really hard in your life, it seems like sometimes that you ever heard the term, when it rains, it pours?
Yeah.
At that moment, I was really feeling like, wow. I mean, it's just like another thing that was hitting me. I was going through a business breakup that was expensive legally, 6 figures. I was going through a personal breakup, a divorce that was devastating, and just a horrible situation there. Expensive as well. Don't recommend that at all. And on top of that, towards the end of 2012, I got diagnosed with thyroid carcinoma cancer. Wow. And I just thought, man, that, my God, what else could happen? Like, is this the end of me? Like, it was so many things happening that you had this like great, moments and times and great things happening. And then you just literally, you heard that term, it takes a lifetime to climb the ladder and 2 steps to fall to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of felt what it felt like. And I realized that I obviously needed to get this cancer taken care of. My whole priorities in life changed. When someone basically tells you that you have cancer and they use the C word on you, it changes your whole perspective. It changes everything in your life at that moment. Nothing else is the same. And I had to get very clear on what was a priority and what wasn't. And I ended up having a surgery. I didn't have to go through chemo, praise God. And I took a pill basically that showed the cancer, and then it killed most of it. And then I had a thyroidectomy. I had my thyroids taken out. And through that process, I had about a 6-month lull. I couldn't go speak at events. I couldn't go sell my product. I couldn't go do a lot of things. It was pretty rough. Mm-hmm. And so I had to really think, what am I going to do from now forward? And I was in a pretty desperate place, a negative place, Matt. And I started to just feeling sorry for myself. And I don't, if you know me, I'm an optimistic person. That's not something that I really have to struggle with. Mm-hmm. But this was making me, this was a factor. It was definitely a factor. And I started to just write down a reason every day to be grateful. I'm grateful that I have my legs. I'm grateful that I have my fingers. I'm grateful that I can speak. Every day I just start writing a reason to be grateful every day. And towards the middle of 2013, going into 2014, I created this thing called the Grateful Project. And this is on my hand right now. Yeah. And every day I write a reason to be grateful. And do you know, going through this process, I shut down my loss mitigation company. I didn't do any more short sales. I got through my business challenges. I got through the divorce, and I started to realize what was most important. My mom, that was in her 70s, I wouldn't spend a lot of time with her. So I immediately made a change to go spend Sundays with her on either breakfast or church. Yeah. And she didn't have a say in it. It was like, this is going to happen. I just started to get clear on the things that were important. Wasn't reading the Bible for me. That was important. You know what? I'm going to read the Bible and start listening to it on Audible. I wasn't telling a friend if I had some issue with them that I forgave them. I'm sorry. I made a list of everybody and there wasn't a big list, thank God, but I made a list of people that was in my heart that I needed to rectify some things with. And I just started to get clear on the things that were the most important, because I had regrets if I ended up not making it through those surgeries. And at the time, they have you sign a waiver that says there's a chance that you can't make that you'll die. And I went back to wholesaling. And wholesaling was the low-hanging fruit. And so since about 2014, 15 and on, we just put a big emphasis on wholesaling, and was doing about 60 deals, and went to 70, 80, 90. Now we're over 100 deals in greater OKC area. About 2016, 17, I started to learn more about multifamily. So that's where I got the interest and built a team and worked with people that I know, like, and trust. And I wanted to work together with them. So we got together and bought some 100+ apartment buildings. And now that's over 400 on the GP side. And I don't own all the percentage or anything, but enough to definitely get myself interested and learn more about it and have big write-offs, which is a big purpose that a lot of people buy the multifamily in the first place, not just cash flow, but the big tax write-offs. Mm-hmm. And I just started to learn more and more about, I started focusing more and more on wholesaling on the single family side. So probably a long story, man, but that's kind of where it brings us up where we are today. We opened up a national division for wholesaling across the country. I'm super excited about it. We're still very young into it, but it's super exciting. We got a great team together, 3 acquisition guys, and then a full-time sales manager, a transaction coordinator, really helping us out. Today we had, over 4 contracts that came in. today from all over the place. We got one in Kansas City, one in one in West Virginia, one in Pennsylvania. I mean, so it's kind of crazy that we're moving to that direction, but I feel very comfortable in doing it because we focused for the last 5.5 years of wholesaling and really, really getting good at it. And, from there, we're just looking at ways to stay as focused as we can, not get too scattered, go deeper than wider, but really think about a way that we can systemize something, build a team around it where you got guys all they're doing is focused on locking up contracts. You got you got the division, the sales, all they're focused on doing is selling the contracts.
Yeah.
And then you can have somebody do the logistics in between.
Yeah. And I would love to dig into that for a minute here, but before that, even one, thank you so much for sharing that story. Like, I know we had talked, a little bit prior about, the challenges and the journey that you've been through, and to hear you tell that is incredibly inspiring. I mean, do you, the Grateful project, is there a way for people to get involved with that specifically?
Yes, absolutely. The cool thing is that I realized as I was writing these daily, and this again was very selfishly, I hate to admit it's very selfishly, just for me. I was finding reasons to be grateful. I posted on, I have some good platforms, some influencer platforms and thought platforms out there of social media for Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and whatnot. And I was posted on Facebook, and one guy that had a very large group ended up seeing it, and he shared it with his group. And overnight we had 3,000-4,000 new people that came in and said, man, this is amazing. I want to start doing this. So now we have people that start their own Grateful project. And they have their day ones and day twos and all the things that they're grateful for. It's awesome, man. You can just go to gratefulproject.org. You can get some free bracelets. That's just shipping on them. But it's a great reason, every reason daily. I always wear a bracelet. Everybody knows. And then I give them out to homeless folks on the corner. So I usually wrap a $5 bill or a 10 or whatever I have with a couple of bracelets. I always have them in my glove or in my trunk. And give them to them. And it's so awesome to see months later, if you'll see somebody in the corner and they'll have one on their wrist. So it means something, it means something whenever you're reminded daily, especially now, especially going through all the craziness that we're going through right now in 2020, to be grateful and have a reason to be grateful and not take a lot of things for granted, which I've done. And it's easy for all of us to do.
Yeah, I was going to say we need that now more than ever. So it's, I do think, wearing something like that and being able to talk to people about that really is infectious. It helps people, be excited to share that idea and to be able to share something that other people need, and I think are excited to tell others about. And that's something that, you can all, share together. So, I think that can spread quickly. Yeah, well, I appreciate you sharing that part. On the real estate side, I would love to hear a little bit. I mean, I know you mentioned that you started in short sale and had this journey into wholesaling. If you were to, say you're a newbie today, which we're talking to quite a few probably listening on this channel. Where would you start with them? Would you think about wholesaling, or how would you kind of analyze your options? Like, how would you kind of go back and start fresh right now?
The first thing I do is understand that the information that you get is power, but only if you apply it. Mm-hmm. So, information is touted as power, but it's only if you apply it. So I would find somebody, if I'm talking to somebody that's just thinking about getting involved with real estate, one, I'd have to really understand why they want to do it. There's a lot of other options out there. Why real estate? Why does that resonate with you? And once we kind of get through that, then basically there's people that are doing real estate and they would love to maybe have someone to help them go run some errands. They would love to have them maybe go find a couple of deals for them, be a bird dog. That really doesn't cost you much. It's gas money and time, which you have both. If you're basically wanting to get into something new, you're going to create that time for those things. And then once you actually kind of get into it more, I would look at some great tools. One of them being DealMachine, because it's such an easy app to use. You literally just take a picture of a house. It already has the address, the owner's mailing information there. It shows up, a phone number. It shows up. And so it's literally, you could drive around and take pictures. And I know people, investors that do that with DealMachine, and they're very successful with it. We've done deals with DealMachine as well. Mm-hmm. You can also export those leads out, and you could do a mailer if you wanted to. DealMachine allows you to send postcards and through, but you can download those leads. Another way that is not as popular now, but definitely gets you results, you just got to be careful with it, is what's called bandit signs. And, you know, bandit signs don't get the greatest reputation, but I have bought at least 100 properties through bandit signs. And it's because they are right there, obvious. People cannot get around them unless they get taken up over the weekend or on Mondays. Usually put them out on Friday, and then the ordinance will come and take them over the weekend. But that's another way, you know, that you could do it. The other way is right now it's pretty successful, is texting, and texting is very cheap way to to get engagement with someone that's interested in selling. You got to be obviously careful in TCP compliance, I believe is what it is. I'm not an attorney, so, you know, but there's a compliance where, you know, you can't just be spamming people, but there's lists, there's people, there's way you can pin data that you can get in front of someone if they're wanting to sell their property or if they have interest in selling their property, and you can get some engagement. The key to texting successfully is to use the text as basically a phishing someone, and they engage, and you try to get them on the phone, because then you're going to actually have the best way to convert them over to a potential good lead and whatnot. So very inexpensive way to find people that way. And then lastly, you know, direct mail is, PayPerClick is another one that is, you know, anybody can get started tomorrow, you know, with a $50, $100 budget on PayPerClick. You know, go learn some things about AdWords. You can create your own user word keywords, and you can find enough videos to teach you about that. But that's a very fairly inexpensive way to get good leads that are ready to go. They're usually pretty motivated, that come from pay-per-click campaigns.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think, like you mentioned, a variety of channels to begin with. So I love the idea of saying, hey, you need to understand the why, understand, you know, have a foundation to begin with. And then once you've got that in place, then you can move and take action from there. But, you know, once people do start to see some traction and start to, you know, land those deals and think about their future direction about building a team, we definitely have some people on here listening to this that are at that stage as well. You talked about putting the right people in place and, you know, different roles and whatnot. Can you tell us a little bit more about how to think properly through building that team, and, you know, how to set yourself up for future success when you are ready to hire and scale like that?
Yes, absolutely. So there's a number of great tools to help you do this, but don't let all of these tools and other things that you may or may not know much about, like predictive index or Kobe test, or, you know, anything like that, to kind of derail you from really figuring out the type of person that you think, you believe is excited, has enthusiasm to do whatever it is that you need done. So putting the wrong person, putting an excited, enthusiastic person in the wrong seat is not going to get you results. You've got to really understand what this person wants to do, what they're good at, what they're not good at, how they resolve challenges. And you've got to come up with some good questions to be able to ask them during your quote interview stage, when you're starting to build quote a team, which is what you're talking about. You're building a team. You start moving from this one-man show to building a team. And the first hire I recommend is a personal assistant. I know people argue on this. You get an acquisition person or a salesperson. A personal assistant will give you back so much of your time. I've had a personal assistant for over 10 years, and she literally handles 90% of all of the stuff, all the minutia, all the things that happen throughout the day that needs to get done, but you don't have to be the person that does it. There's many things that you do as now the business owner. You're building a business, you're a CEO. there's things that you do that you know you shouldn't. In fact, one of the practices that we do with clients is I have them make out a list of all the things that they're doing that they know they shouldn't be. And that list it gets pretty expansive. And they're even surprised. They're like, oh man, I shouldn't be doing that. Why am I doing it? And the answer is, why are you doing that? When they ask them, why are you doing that? It's because it's efficient. That's the answer. I just want to get it done. It's efficient. It's efficient. It's only going to take 2 minutes. It's only taking 30 seconds. It's only going to take 5 minutes. It's only going to take 10 minutes. I'd rather just get it done. I know I can get it done. I don't have to train. I don't have to do that. That mindset worked for you. Listen to what I'm saying. That mindset works for the one-man show. That mindset works all day for the one-man show. You may even be able to get up to 500, maybe $1 million a year business. I mean, you'd be burning some midnight oil and running around and doing a lot of stuff. But maybe you can even get to that point. I'd probably say probably $500,000. Million might be pushing it. But when you press past a certain point and you're building a team, your mindset that you have that built it as a one-man show all completely and utterly changes to build it as a team. Now it's not just about you getting something done and it takes 3 to 5 minutes. It's all those things that take 3 to 5 minutes now just took an hour, 2 or 3 hours out of your day. And you don't have time to spend on the thing that's actually the most important. Mm-hmm. The thing that's most important, and it's usually just 1, maybe 2 things in the whole period of the day. That's the most important when you prioritize. That is the thing that usually requires your time, your effort, your focus. Usually. Sometimes even that thing can be delegated. We come through an exercise with our clients. We say either going to create it, we're going to eliminate it, or we're going to delegate it, right? Mm-hmm. EDC, we're going to eliminate it, we're going to delegate it, we're going to create it. And that's how you think as a business owner, as a CEO. When you start building a business, you start thinking that way. Now, when you start to get into a different mindset that, oh, wow, that person can do it. Oh, and they may not have done it just like you, but maybe they got it done 80% as good as you. If somebody can get something done 80% as good as you, or get the task done, you can build out and teach them out the other 20%. Right?
Yep.
Just let people learn. The only way you're going to build a team is let people learn. Let them make mistakes. The hardest part is to letting them make mistakes. What happened? What'd you learn from that? How can we not do that again? What happened? I teaching an acquisition person, we lost a deal. What happened? Somebody else got to it before we did. How did they do that? I was on the phone and she told me that they were coming over at 4:00, and I told her that just to give us a call afterwards, and if you haven't sold it, we're still interested. What could you have done differently? Maybe I could have told her I could be over there at 12 instead, so I got there earlier. Okay. What do you think would have happened if we got there at 12? Probably would have got the deal. Okay. So what do we know moving forward? Get in front of the person as soon as humanly possible. Do everything you possibly can to lock up the deal as soon as humanly possible, because then you can control it. Then you have a lot of leverage at that point, and you're not losing out on marketing dollars, which really do start adding up, especially as a business owner and when you're missing deals. The other question is, what's that deal cost? I don't know. How much do you think we would have made on that if we got it? 14,000? 14,000 over a conversation. Yeah. So words are important. Yeah. So you start to build a team, and you start to have these different mindsets of, how do I teach? How do I delegate? But I know mistakes are going to happen and they're painful. But when the mistakes happen, how can you turn it into a lesson? I always say win or learn. Win or learn. That's what it comes down to. If you can learn from what you went through, at least that wasn't a $50,000 deal, right? Mm-hmm. At least, and we always follow up with that, right? Well, at least it wasn't a $50,000 deal. Let's not do that again. At least it wasn't a $50,000 deal, right? You always want to leave it with a positive with optimism, because you never want to leave somebody in place where they just feel low and down, but you always want to teach a lesson. At least that's kind of what you do as a CEO. You start to inspire and you start to teach.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, this is phenomenal, Cory. Yeah, I appreciate all the insights for different, different levels of folks that are listening to this. I think one last one I wanted to ask about as well. I know you said, hey, the marketing dollars add up, like it's expensive. As you got, from an advanced strategy standpoint, as you guys start to expand more nationally, and it sounds like you are, getting deals all over the place, how is your marketing strategy shifting? Like, how is that evolving with that, with these new goals?
A lot more focused. Whenever we started to go, wider, which I'm not necessarily a huge fan of, but I knew it was the right decision for us because we were staying focused on one big marketing channel, which was PayPerClick. And PayPerClick for us, we can really start to control it more. We can really get dialed in on the keywords. We can really get dialed in on, understanding geography. We can really get dialed in on buyer synergies, and we can really get centered and dialed in, even though we're in a larger area, right? A lot more rooftops in the United States. But there's ways to dial in on it. And then there's national title companies that handle 40, states. And so you get the pieces in place. I always think about things like a puzzle, right? My grandma, God bless her soul, she's no longer with us anymore. Her name's Faye Mama. Amazing woman. When I used to come over to, as a little kid, my 9, 10, 11, I would, for Thanksgiving, Christmas, we would go over to my grandma's house in Hollis, Oklahoma. Everybody would show up at the house, cousins and, family, and she'd have these amazing apricot fried pies, which still to this day, just, you smell it and it's just an aphrodisiac for hunger. and she would have, when you walk in, she would have this puzzle that was always on a cardboard table. And it was like just pieces, right? And she never had the box that you can see what you're putting together, right? And so somebody would always have to ask, Grandma, where's the box so we can see how to put this thing together? Where's it? So you get the box and kind of set it up on the corner, so you still have pieces, set it up in the corner, you can kind of see. And then slowly but surely, throughout the whole day, somebody'd sit down and put a couple pieces together, and they'd look at it, and they put a couple pieces, and then they get up and they leave or whatever. And then, but the first thing you do is you'd find corners. Mm-hmm. You'd find corners. Why is that? Because corners don't look like any of the other pieces. Corners, there's only 4 corners for square puzzle. There's only 4 corners, right? So why do I say that? Why is that important? What are the 4 corners in your real estate business? What does the picture look like that you're working towards? What does that look like? Most of the time we don't ask those questions, Matt. We just get in there and start going. We just start getting in the car and, hey, where are you driving to? I don't know. Just driving down the road. Wait, like, how absurd does that sound? Like, even you generally, when you get in the car, know where you're going. You have a general idea where you're going, right? But as an entrepreneur, and a lot of times for our businesses, we just get in the car and start driving aimlessly. So you've got to, I think, have a clear idea of what it is you want to do, what it is you want to accomplish. And now we start talking about tracking KPIs, right? How many phone calls does it take to get an actual lead? How many leads does it actually take to get an appointment? How many appointments does it take to get a contract? How many contracts does it take to actually get one closed? And then if you're doing this virtually versus a local model, sitting there and actually meeting people, looking in the eye, getting all that body language, extra things that you can do that you can't get virtually. Well, what does that puzzle look like? Right. What are the 4 corners of that? What are the things I have to have in place in order to do deals? I have to have a national title company. That better be a corner piece, right? I need to have someone that can buy a property. I need to have someone that can sell a property. I need to have a transaction coordinator. I need to have marketing, but could marketing be a corner? Yeah, it could be. It's probably going to be more in the centerpiece of the big picture. You start to actually put together what the puzzle looks like. You start to prioritize the things that are most important. Yeah. And this is something that most entrepreneurs really suck at, because they're so good at just they're so good at the one-man show that it's so hard to change the mindset that says, I know I can do it, but I choose not to, so I can empower a team member to help them out, to serve them, to build a team, to build a dream team, right? I know I can do it. That's the part that you give yourself, because if you just say, I'll just have somebody else do it, then you're going to feel like you're lazy and all that. No, it's important. I know I can do it, but I choose to let somebody else do it, because I know that I'm empowering them and I'm building the dream team. And those things, and the way you think about things like that, that's how you start to build a real business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Myself personally, I know we talked about this a little bit earlier, but my background's with a couple different startups and tech as well and things like that. And yeah, to see that shift from, the one-man show, the, small team of entrepreneurs that are thinking like that and trying to shift into building a real business is, quite an obstacle to get over. But like you said, when you are all as a team working towards a goal, you can go so much further than just the lone wolf, trying to get everything done. So,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, Cory, I appreciate the time, man. This was phenomenal, like hearing your story. And I think you gave great bits of advice for any entrepreneur, whether it's just a newbie starting out all the way up to somebody scaling like this. So I know I plan on getting involved with the Grateful Project after hearing all this, but how else can people keep in touch with you and continue to hear more, about your story and your content and all of that?
Awesome, man. I appreciate it so much. It's been fun. Cory's coaching is where folks can go if they're interested in learning about wholesaling. One little video in there, a couple questions to see if you're, we're a good fit. And then just CoryBoatright.com, my name, CoryBoatright. You can find, me on different social media places and things I share. And you can also have access to our podcast. We have a podcast as well called Real Estate Investing Profit Masters. REI Profit Masters, where we ask some crazy questions of people get 8 hours of sleep at night. What's their favorite tech tools? What's their big why? And you get to hear these investors that are doing these big things, share some of their biggest aha moments and things like that. So we've had a lot of fun with that. And so definitely would love for you to check that out if you like it. Give us a great comment on there. And so those are a couple ways.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Cory. I appreciate it. And looking forward to this one coming out and seeing the responses. Incredible stories. Thank you.
Appreciate you, Matt.